Hello, I am back talking about how to solve radical equations. Now, before I start talking about how to solve radical equations, I want to show you how to solve quadratic equations, and you'll hopefully see that to solve radical equations, you're basically doing the opposite of what you would do with quadratic equations. Alright, so hopefully this is a review. If this part is not a review, no worries. You'll learn it. Here we go. Solve 3x squared minus 2 equals 73. You want to solve for x. What does x equal? Well, alright, let's do it. So, in order to solve this, I have to get x by itself. In order to get x by itself, I'm noticing that there's an x squared right here. So I know that since there's an x squared, I'm going to have to take the square root sooner or later. I have to get the x squared by itself first. I have to get the squared term by itself. So right now, it's not by itself. You have this ugly 3 right there. You have this ugly negative 2. You got to deal with those. So let's do it. First thing you do, you get rid of the negative 2. How do you get rid of negative 2? You add 2. When you add 2, you end up with 3x squared equaling 75. Now I got to get rid of that ugly 3 we talked about. 3 times x squared. How do you get rid of a 3 times? You divide. These get taken away and you are left with x squared equaling 75 divided by 3, 25. Now, what are you going to do? You have x squared equals 25. You've reached your first goal. Your first goal was to simply get x squared by itself. You have the squared term by itself. How do you get rid of a square? You square root. The square and the square root cancel each other out. So now all you're left with is an x equaling, but you need to remember, every time you personally have to make a square root, you put a plus or minus in front of whatever the square root is. In this case, it's 5. X is plus or minus 5. Bam! You're done. You need to check yourself because all good mathematicians check themselves. So off to the side somewhere, you're going to check yourself. You're going to substitute in positive 5 and negative 5, and hopefully they work. Here we go. 3 times 5 squared minus 2. Hopefully it equals 73. Alright. Order of operations, I need to square 5 first. Then I need to multiply. Bam! That one works. Now I gotta try negative 5. I'll just do it right here. Made a mistake. That's right, you always write in pencil or erasable pen. Okay, negative 5 squared. I'm going to stop there because this line is the exact same as this line, so I know it's going to work out. Alright, so these are my answers. I can now circle my answers since I checked myself. X equals positive and negative 5. On to the next one. one more quadratic before we get into radicals. Alright, so I have the same stuff I have to do. I have to get the square term by itself. Once I get the square term by itself, I can take the square root, and from there, like, life is awesome. Here we go. Here's my square term. What's being squared? Not the 5, not the x. The 5 minus x is, x minus 5 is being squared. So what's messing me up? I do not want this 3. I do not need that 1 because that is not being squared. So let's get rid of it. The first thing you're going to do is get rid of the 1. It's a plus 1, so you're going to minus 1. This is 1/3 times x minus 5. How do you get rid of a fraction that's being multiplied? Well, you can do two things. You can multiply by the reciprocal, which is what I do, or you can multiply by the reciprocal. Really, there's only one thing to do. When you have a fraction, you multiply by the reciprocal to get rid of it. That's what you do. So in this case, 1/3, when you flip it, it becomes 3/1. So what you're going to do is you're going to multiply this entire side by 3 and this entire side by 3. 3/1 is 3. Okay, so that's how you get rid of that fraction there. You're left with x minus 5 squared. 3 times 3 is 9. Okay. Now what do you do? Well, I have the square by itself. I have the square term by itself. So now, to get rid of a square, you square root both sides. And when you square root a square, it cancels out. X minus 5. And actually, I don't need the parentheses anymore. X minus 5 equals 3. Haha. You caught it. Can't trick you. It does not equal 3. It equals plus or minus 3. Because I personally drew that square root sign. Now, I need to get x by itself still. So, add 5 to both sides. X equals 5 plus 3. X equals 5 minus 3. X equals 8. X equals 2. Check yourself. Here we go. I'm going to try 8 first. Okay, so 8 minus 5 1/3 of 9, sorry, 1/3 of 9 this one works, so I know this one is my answer. Now I gotta check to see if the other one is my answer. Here we go. 2. 1/3. 2 minus 5 squared plus 1 better equal 4. Here we go. 2 minus 5 is negative 3. Negative 3 squared. Order of operations. I'm done. I'm stopping. I just did that step. This step right here is the same as this step right here. So I already know that it's going to end up being 4 equals 4. Bam. Both of them are my answer. Okay, so that was 10 minutes of solving quadratic equations. Let's go to what this video is really about. Solving radical equations. Alright, radical equations, in my opinion, are not that bad. You just got to know your order of operations. You got to know how to get stuff by itself. And life is really not that bad if you're okay with solving equations. If you were okay with those first two examples, these right here, piece of cake. Same concept. You have to get the radical by itself the same way you had to get the squared term by itself. The same way you get rid of a square by square rooting, you get rid of a square root by squaring. Here we go. I'm here. Life is not bad. Life is awesome right here. I need to get the square root by itself. The square root is right here. Ooh, that's my square root. So since that's my square root, this is my square root term. Everything under the square root. Is it by itself? Nope. That 1 right there. We need to get rid of that sucker. How do you get rid of a plus 1? You subtract 1. Do you have the square root term by itself? Yes, you do. How do you get rid of a square root? I'll wait. I can't hear you. Okay, yeah. It's kind of late. It's like 7:31. It's way past my bedtime. Don't judge me. You have to square both sides. When you square both sides, similar things happen compared to your quadratic equation solving problems. What you do is a square and a square root, they cancel each other out. You're left with 2 minus y equals 4 squared is 16. You want to get y by itself? You minus 2. Y equals negative 14. Good mathematicians, they check their work. You have to check your work whenever you're doing radical equations. Any other type of equation like quadratics, linear, you kind of, if you did your math right, you kind of know what your answer is. But with radical equations, you can do all of your math correctly and still get the wrong answer. It's craziness. And that's where a lot of people mess up. They get to their answer, they're like, oh, I know I did my stuff right. And then they're wrong because they didn't check their work. It's called an extraneous solution, and sometimes you'll have them. Extraneous solutions are when you get to an answer and you did your math right. You're like, Miss Frazier, I know I got this right. But when you substitute it back into your original to check yourself, all of a sudden funky stuff happen. Sometimes you get like 15 equaling 3. I don't know about you, but 15 does not equal 3. If I have $15 and the bank tells me here's $3, we have a problem. So yes, always check your money and your math. Okay, that was a tangent. Here we go. I've been off on a tangent. You'll understand that when you get to trigonometry. Alright, check yourself. So in order to check myself, I'm taking this, I'm substituting it into my original equation. My original equation was 2 minus y plus 1 equaling 5. So y, I think, is negative 14. I'm not sure. So instead of y, I'm going to put negative 14 there. Alright? Now, 2 minus a negative is really 2 plus, because the negative and negative will give you a positive. And then you still have that plus 1 outside. You still have that 5. Do not make the mistake that a lot of people make and start putting your numbers outside of the radical, inside the radical. It's so easy to make that mistake. Now, 2 plus 14, square root of 16. It works. It works. Thank goodness I didn't do all of that work for a problem that didn't have a solution. It works. Y equals negative 14. Y does not equal 5. I always check myself, and then I always accidentally think that this is my answer. No, that was just me checking myself. Your answer is what you said, y equals. Alright. You might ask, why didn't I put a plus or minus right here? The problem already had a square root. I didn't need to put a plus or minus because I didn't personally put a square root in the problem. It gave it to me. See if you can do this one. Pause the video. See how your boat floats. If you didn't pause it by now, you might want to. If you are not comfortable and you want to do it with me, here we go. You got to get the radical by itself. Is the radical by itself? No, it is not. There's my radical. I have this negative touching it. I have this 4 touching it. I have this, no, that's on the other side of the equal sign. Ignore that part. But I have this negative and this 4. I need to get rid of that because I need my radical by itself. I already know once I get the radical by itself, I can square both sides, get rid of that radical, and beautiful things start happening. This is a positive 4 here. There's an imaginary plus sign right there. So what I'm going to do is subtract 4 from both sides. You end up with negative square root of x plus 1 equaling what seems to be 1. Okay. Now, I need to get rid of that negative. How do you get rid of, it's like a negative 1 really. There's like an imaginary 1 right there. Negative 1 times the square root. Well, negative 1 times it, you divide by negative 1. Those say farewell. Well, really it turns into 1, but I'm just saying. Alright, so there you go. Now, I have the radical by itself. Since I have my radical by itself, I can get rid of that sucker. How do I get rid of a radical? Well, in order to get rid of a square root, you square it. You square both sides. When you square a square root, it cancels out. Remember from our previous video, a square root has an imaginary 2 right there. If it was a cube root, you'd cube it to get rid of it, and you'd cube both sides. If it was a 4th root, you'd 4th it. Okay, so on this side, we have x plus 1. Negative 1 squared is 1. I want to get x by itself, so I'm going to subtract 1 from both sides. In this case, x equals what seems to be 0. I got to check myself though. It seems to be 0. I do not know. I am a good mathematician. I know that I did everything correctly. Mostly because I already did this problem before I started the video, but that's another story. I know I did this correctly. You can check my math. I know I did it right. But someone told me that there are such things as extraneous solutions. I need to check myself. I need to go back to my original, substitute in what I think is my answer, and see if it makes sense. If it doesn't make sense, I do not have a solution. Here we go. Checking myself. 4 minus the square root of x plus 1 equals 5. Again, be careful what you put under your radical. It's so easy to just start writing everything under your radical. Alright, so instead of x, I think it's 0. So I'm going to erase my x. Instead of x, I'm going to write 0. Let's do it. 0 plus 1. Square root of 1. 4 minus 1. See what I'm talking about? 3 does not equal 5. Again, if I go into the bank and I'm like, hey yo, I put in $5, and they're like, oh, here you go, here's your $3. I'm like, no, I put in $5. I want my $5 back. In nobody's world does 3 equal 5. It doesn't. It just, no. This does not work. So I am sad. I am sad because I did all of this work, got an answer, and I know I did my math right. But when I substituted it into my original problem to check myself, what? I got this nonsense. This is not an answer. This is not an answer because it doesn't work when you check yourself. Bam. No solution. There is no answer because x equals 0 is extraneous or extraneous. How do you spell it? I don't remember. We're gonna go with that. Okay, sorry. So yeah, though, that's really it though. 10 minutes to show you how to solve quadratics. About 12 minutes, maybe not even that, to show you how to solve square roots radical equations. So let's have 2 more examples, and then I'll show you like the hardest one ever. See if you can do it on your own. Tune in for the next video. I will solve this one right here. I will even solve this one right here. And then the most complicated one I could think of is that one right here. And I'm telling you right now, it's not that bad if you have the prior knowledge that you need. You're going to need to know how to factor. I'm just saying. Alright. Do I want to put on another video? Nah. Who am I kidding? We got this. We can do it all on this one video. I am going to explain the steps as I go through it. You're going to have to pause it as much as you like to pause it because I already explained it. So if you feel that I'm moving too fast for you, you're going to need to pause it, rewind it, understand what I'm really talking about. Here we go. Gotta get the radical by itself. Is my radical by itself? No, it is not by itself. I need to get rid of this -2 right here that's messing around. I need to get rid of this 5 right here, and then I'd have the radical by itself. Alright, so I'm going to get rid of the 5 because it's not really touching my radical. I always get rid of stuff not touching my radical. So in order to get rid of a +5, because it's positive, it doesn't have a negative in front, I'm going to subtract 5 from both sides. When you subtract 5 from both sides, you get -2 square root of 3x plus 1 equaling what seems to be -10. Okay, Got to get rid of that negative 2. It's negative 2 times the radical, so I'm going to divide by negative 2 on both sides. Toodles. I'm going to have the square root of 3x plus 1 equaling what seems to be 5. Now I have the radical by itself. Since I have the radical by itself, I can square both sides. The entire sides. When I square a square root, they cancel each other out. So I'm left with 3x plus 1 equaling 5 squared is 25. Got rid of that radical. Everything else is like algebra 1, like 8th grade, maybe even 6th grade. Okay, x equals 8. Is that my answer? You don't know it yet. You have to check yourself. Okay, so how do you check yourself? You take what you think the answer is and you substitute it into the original equation. My original equation, 5 minus 2 square root of 3x plus 1 equals what they said is negative 5. Make sure I know that my 1 is under my radical. Okay, so instead of x, I'm going to put what I think x is, which is 8. So I'm going to erase x. And I'm going to put 8 right there. Alright, so it's time to figure this stuff out. Square root of 25 is 5. It's looking good. Yes. Got an answer. It works. It makes me happy. Negative 5 does equal negative 5. If somebody owes me $5, I'm like, yes, I need my $5. Thank you. So this is my answer. These are the easiest. People freak out about this. Wait, first, pause the video if you're not ready. If you don't think you can do it. If you're up for a challenge and you think you can do this, go ahead and pause the video and try it. These are the easiest problems. I promise you they are. It's not that bad at all. What do you have to do? You got to get the radical by itself. What's messing it up? Are the radicals by itself? Yes, they are. They're by itself on that side of the equal sign. You have two radicals, yes, but they're by themselves. There's no addition, no subtraction, no multiplication, no division on those radicals. They are alone. So you square both sides. That's what you do. Both radicals end up canceling each other out. Huh. Beautiful. From the very first step, I'm back to 6th, okay, maybe 7th grade. Combine like terms. Combine the constants. Oops, sorry. So x equals 20 is what I think. I keep saying what I think because I have to check myself. that was my original. Instead of x, I need to put 20. Two times 20 is 40. 20 plus 5 is 25. 40 minus 15 is square root of 25 is 5. Square root of 25 is 5. 5 equals 5. I'm happy. This is my answer. Look how, like, guess what? 1 step, 2, 3 steps. Told you, man, these are the easiest problems. Alright, so here is the challenge. I'm going to do the first part very quickly because that part is not the challenge. I'm going to do the second part pretty quickly because if you really understand your previous math, you'll be okay. Okay, pause the video. You need to pause the video. Warning. Oh, also, if you are in my honors class, this type of problem is not optional. If you are in my standard class, I'll let you know if it's optional or not, but for right now, assume you have to learn it. Yeah, you know what? Let's just go ahead and say you have to learn it. Why not? It never hurts to learn too much. Here we go. That's the problem. Did you pause the video yet? I really hope everyone paused the video, and I really hope that everyone is going to try this problem because I really hope that everyone has the confidence in their abilities to at least try a problem, even if they might get it wrong. Okay, I'm going to add 1 to both sides. I cannot combine that 3x and that 1 because they're not like terms. So I just have to write them right next to each other. I have the radical by itself. I can square both sides. If you're stuck right here, please pause the video. Think. It's okay. Think. You can figure this out. Do not just go ahead and say, well, I can't figure it out. I'm going to just see what Miss Frazier does. You can figure this out. Try it. Think about what you need to do at this step. These cancel each other out. You are left with 19 minus 3x equals 3x plus 1 squared. When you square something, you're multiplying it by itself twice. 1, 2. Okay? So now, when you do this, you end up with 3x times 3x, 9x squared, 3x times 1, plus 3x times 1, 1 times 1. What are you going to do now? Think about it. You have to solve the equation. You have to find the solution. You have to solve it for x. You can do this. What are you going to do? Do not just watch the video. Pause it. Well, assuming you paused it and now you're back, you're going to get everything on one side because you have a quadratic now. You're going to get everything on one side. Factor, quadratic formula, complete the square, anything you want to solve it for x. I'm going to factor it because I like factoring, and this one actually is nice with factoring. But if you don't want to factor it, quadratic formula always works. And you can even complete the square if you like to, but completing a square is a little more complicated. I'm going to add 3x to both sides. I'm going to subtract 19 from both sides. And now I'm going to factor it because I have it set equal to 0. I'm going to factor it. And this is what I was talking about when I said if you have the previous knowledge. If you know how to factor, this is not that bad. The first thing you do is you always look for your GCF. My GCF, oh sorry, this is 18. Negative 18. If you did it on your own, you would have known that I made a mistake. I hope everyone knew I made a mistake. Okay, so anyways, I'm going to look for the GCF first. I have one. It's 9. So when you factor out a 9, you're left with 9 divided by 9 is 1. 9 divided by 9 is 1. Negative 18 divided by 9 is negative 2. You're going to then factor your trinomial. I'm going to think of two numbers that multiply to give me negative 2, but then when I add them, I get 1. Okay. I'm thinking 2 and 1. Those are really the only two factors of negative 2. Okay, so 2 and 1, 2 and 1. This has to be negative in order for me to get a positive 1 right there. Alright, so easy peasy. Since my leading coefficient is 1, the number in front of x squared is 1, I can do factor by grouping, or I can know that I have two parentheses. This is a positive 2. X plus 2, x minus 1. Using the numbers that I had. I had a positive 2. I had a negative 1. Ooh, don't forget, you factored out a 9 at the beginning. Make sure you write your 9 at the end. You're solving it. You're solving it. You're solving it. The problem said solve. It didn't say factor. It said solve. Do you have it solved? Whenever you have it solved, it says x equals. Do you have it to equal x? No. You have 0, because remember there's a 0 there. 0 equals 9, x plus 2, x minus 1. You do not have x equals. How are you going to get x equals? You set each factor equal to 0. Nine does not equal 0. It just doesn't work. X equals negative 2. X equals 1. Have my answer. Man, I used up like almost a whole page trying to do this problem, and I finally have my answer. You think you're forgetting. You do not know your answer unless you check yourself. You have to check both of these to see if they're right. So let's do it. Here's my first check. My original problem said the square root of 19 minus 3x minus 1 equals 3x. I'm going to try to do negative 2 first. So instead of x, I'm going to put negative 2. Okay, here we go. 19 plus 6, because negative 3 times negative 2 is positive 6. This is negative 6. 19 plus 6 is 25. Square root of 25 is 5. Whoa. 4 does not equal negative 6. You did all of this work for negative 2, and it doesn't even work. What is it called? What type of solution? Starts with an E, ends with an extraneous. It's an extraneous solution. So, this one right here does not work. We got to try 1 still. Here we go. That was my original. Instead of x, I am going to put 1. Square root of 19 minus 3 minus 1 equals 3. 19 minus 3 is 16. Square root of 16 is 4. 4 minus 1 is 3. Yes! This one worked. So that apparently is my only solution. Do not tell me both of these are your solutions. You are completely wrong if you tell me both of them are your solutions. Only one of them are your solutions. The one that has the smiley face. Okay guys, so yeah, I'm done. I hope the videos helped you. If they didn't help you, rewind them. Go ask someone else for help. Do not give up. Go watch another video. There are plenty of videos. Have a nice day. Post a comment if you have a question specifically for me.